when you open them up, you get 3 separate stencils. So I'm just going to bring them onto my mat here so that we can see them. That's brilliant. Okay, so this is layer 1. So you can see where I've actually filled the colour in on there, and all I've done is use either a piece of cut and dry foam, or you can use one of your sponge applicators with the felt on. So I'm going to use a mixture of both of those. And then we've got layer 2. So I'm just going to bring this one alongside it now. So you can see we've added a bit more detail now. We've brought the postmark in. We've got some definition on that fleur-de-lis with the next shade of ink. And then I'm just going to squidge that one up a little bit and bring the third one in. So this is the top layer now, and you can see again we've got some extra elements. We've got the paint splats and some really nice detail just on the top. So it's all different layers to build up to make that final, and this is what we end up with towards the end of it. Just bring it down there a little bit so you can see once you actually put them together and add your sentiments or different elements, and that Paris is from one of the stamp sets. So just bringing it all together and you've got yourself either a card front, a piece of home decor, whatever it is you want to decorate. So I'm going to show you how I've achieved that now, and I'm going to cheat a little bit because I'm going to use this first layer from the stencil here. So to start off with, the first thing I've done is take my stencils and I've just applied a wee bit of the stick and spray to the back of the stencil. So this is our repositionable adhesive, and it just keeps your stencil in place so that you're not having to worry about it moving around. And all I've done with this, on this particular occasion, I've chosen our aqua blues from the Harmony Quick Dry inks, and I've got all 3 shades of my aquas there. So this first layer I've done, I've used the Oasis, which is the lightest shade, with a little bit of my cut and dry foam, and all I've done is literally go over the whole area and just ink it in. And I've done that first layer just so that, because it does take a little bit of time to build up those layers, so rather than start from scratch I thought we'd have a head start. So that's the first layer done. Alright, so I'm just going to pop the lightest one to one side, and then I'm just carefully going to peel off my stencil. So we're just going to take that one, and just because it's repositionable, it's just going to take off there nice and gently, and I'm just going to lay that one there so that it doesn't get stuck to everything. And then I'm just going to pinch the one off the next layer, and what we're going to do now is actually layer this over the top. So you can see through, you can see where the detail's going to be. I'm going to just layer it over the top of the one that I've already done. And if you're not so hot on layering things up, they've actually popped. You can see here, let me just get a little pointy tool, we'll use a pencil. Just at the top corner here, there's a little circle, and at this bottom right hand corner there's a little circle. So if you just draw yourself a faint mark in there, the next one's got the holes in and you can just line it up. But I've just used the design that's underneath to line mine up. You can see through. So that's got a little bit of the adhesive on again, make sure it's all stuck down. And the trick with them is to be gentle. There are some very sort of fine details on the stencils, so don't go mad with your sponge and your applicator. Do it nice and gently and think about what direction your stencil's going in. So I'm going to take the middle layer now. So this is Parakeet, which is the middle tone in our aqua collection. And all I'm going to do is ink up my sponge applicator. I'm just going to take off a little bit of excess ink because I don't want to go too mad, and then really gently now through the stencil in a circular motion I'm just going to start building up the ink, and it does go quite a long way. Nice juicy ink pads to work with. So everywhere you've got gaps in that stencil now, we're just going to work that ink through, and this is layering now over the top of that first layer that we put down in the lightest shade of the ink. Okay, so I'm just going to rub that through each layer. So we've got quite a few people joining us this afternoon. I didn't know whether anybody would come and say hello today because we've got such a lot going on. So it's nice to see everybody joining us. I know there's 1 or 2 people who have been following me on my Facebook page. If you haven't come across me yet, if you have a look for Jan Brown Crafter's Companion I usually try and keep you up to date with what I'm doing on there, and if we've got any Facebook Lives coming up, or if we've got the TV shows coming up, we'll post them on there for you. So I'm just going to finish that last little bit, and then you can see now, I'll turn this round in a second so that you can see, and I think we've got everything in there. And then I tend to just go over and take the excess ink off the top of the stencil while I've got it in place. You can just drag it into that area that you've just covered and get rid of the excess. Okie doke, so lid on my ink, and I'm saying that for a reason, because you don't want to end up with your fingers stuck in there. So if I turn this round now, see if we can get a glimpse of that one now, you can see where that darker shade's gone through the stencil now, so it's layered on top. So when I peel this away now, you can see we've got the lightest shade underneath. I'm just going to do it gently. In fact, if I spin it back around this way, I think we can see it better like that. And now you can see that we've got that next layer of detail. It's starting to make it look 3D. It's bringing it off the page so that you've got some detail going on there. So that was layer 2. So what I'm going to do now then is pinch layer 3 off that original. Just gently peel that one back off. And then I'm going to lay this one over the top. And remember, I said if you weren't so good on lining up, use the holes that they've put in. Just mark them so that you can, but you can see where it wants to go. You can see how it lines over the top of the one underneath. And then just pop that one. Make sure it's all stuck down, because there's lots of little areas that need the ink. And I found this is the best. I did try it just with stencil tape, but you don't want the stencil moving. It's better when it's actually stuck down to the card, and because it's repositionable, it doesn't damage the card underneath. And if, just in case anybody's wanting to know, I'm using Nina cardstock underneath at the moment. One of the samples I've used watercolour card, and I'll explain why I've used that in a little while, but this one's just Nina, takes the inks beautifully. So we're going to go on to our third shade now. So we've got Lagoon, which is the darkest shade in the aqua blues. Just going to use the other side of my sponge applicator, take the excess off again, and then we're going to go through the spaces again this time. So I'm going to start up in the top corner where we've got lovely little paint splats on this one, which are great. Now my card is cut just slightly bigger. The stencils are 8 by 8 in size, 8 inches square. And my piece of card's just a little bit bigger, and then I trimmed it down to fit my project. So don't worry if it goes over the edge. I've got a little bit of ink across the top here, but because I'm going to trim it down to fit the project, it doesn't matter. So again, just nice light circular movements through that stencil, and because it's stuck down, we don't need to worry about it moving. And then make sure we've got all those little areas, and these are the smallest areas now because you've got the fine detail on the top of the layer. So I'm just going to pop that through the bits that's left and then build up that detail. And I love this particular design. I love the fleur-de-lis. Very typically Parisian, I think, this one. I think most people would associate it with some kind of Parisian theme. So again, just making sure all those areas are filled in, and take your time with it, build it up, and you get a really, really nice result when it's finished. So just again, drag that excess ink into your stencil. You may as well use it on your card rather than leaving it on the stencil. And then at the end, when I've finished, I've just rinsed these under my tap with just a little bit of warm water. And because our quick dry inks only dry on a porous surface, obviously it just sits on top of the stencil because it's non-porous, and it will just wipe away at the end. Okay, so I usually just run them under the tap and then leave them to air dry. And then my husband normally shouts at me because they're all lined up on the sink where all the pots should be. But I'd much rather be washing my stencils than washing the pots any day. So I'll just pop that out of the way. I'm going to just clean that little bit of ink up first so that we don't end up lenting it. Just get that clean off there. And a little bit of a dry, and then we'll do a reveal. So remember, we've got all 3 layers going on now. The lightest one first, then we added the middle layer. and then we added the darkest. I'm going to keep it this way so that you can see it on there. Are we ready now then? So nice and gently again, make sure you don't drag any elements off your stencil. Pop that down and you can see now you've got that 3D. I think that looks beautiful, and that's just using one family of inks. If you remember, we had all those lovely aqua blues. So we've got a light layer, a medium layer and a dark layer. There's nothing to stop you doing it in three completely different colours. So you could have done your background in one colour, the middle layer in a complementary colour and the top layer in another one as well. So maybe sort of like orange, yellow, orange and red, something like that would look terrific. So don't think you have to work in the same colour family, and I'm going to show you that on one of the other demos later. And then all I've done is trim that down now to get rid of the excess around the edge, and this is what we ended up with. So you can see how it's gone from being just a piece of inked card to an actual design there. And the only thing that I've added to that are a couple of mats and layers. I've picked out the colour tone with some of our Centura Pearl, and then the Paris stamp is from the one that's got the Eiffel Tower in. So if I just bring that alongside there as well, you can see I've just cut this element out here and stamped it and layered that up. So you've gone from, just as I say, having your inks on a piece of card, and you can see we've got a finished project there.